Today's guest is Dr. Tamar Lawful. She is celebrated among the top 50 most influential pharmacists. She leads with wisdom at the crossroads of pharmacy, nutrition, and genomics. She has a doctorate in pharmacy. She is the CEO of Life Balance, where she champions the mantra, love yourself first every day, steering women and men towards a self care revolution and holistic well being.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Earrings Off. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Earrings Off Podcast and on Instagram at The Earrings Off Podcast.
Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa.
Well, today we are welcoming Dr. Tamar Lawful to Earrings Off. Welcome to Earrings Off. We're excited to have this conversation with you.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Dr. Lawful, you highlight the need for prioritizing self-care, especially for working moms. What personal experiences or transformative moments shaped your philosophy on the importance of making one's health a priority? Because many times as women, that's something we struggle with. So help us with that.
We do struggle with that. You know why? Because so many times we tend to be in positions where we are the caretakers, we are taking care of our spouses, of our children, and as well as other responsibilities maybe outside of the house. And
Right.
that's exactly what I was experiencing. I was serving on the board of 3 nonprofit organizations at the same time. I was pregnant, I was newly married, and I was just not taking care of myself. That's when it first started. Then I had my baby, and I was still serving on these nonprofits. I was now working full time overnight at a hospital in a pharmacy. I wasn't working out. I was struggling losing that baby weight. Like before the baby, I was able to just drop the weight easily. Now the things I was doing before wasn't working anymore, and my weight was continually going up. I wasn't diagnosed with any particular illness at that time, but I knew something was coming because that's the patients I worked with. That's where it all started. Lack of sleep, lack of exercise, unhealthy eating habits. So that's where I realized I had to take just a moment for myself and start thinking about what I wanted out of life. I wanted to be here for my child as she was growing up. She was my first child. I was 38 years old, having my first child. So I knew I was going to be an older parent, and I wanted to be around for her. So I had to think, what do I need to do? Where do I need to start? And it started with prioritizing myself, taking care of myself, loving myself first, without, here's the key, without the guilt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Teresa and I talk a lot here on this podcast about just that, about us we take on so many different roles, but how we can only be our best self when we take care of ourselves. That has to be a priority for us to manage everything else. So yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be because we can only do so much for others.
Yeah.
If we're not fully functional.
Right.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
Yeah. So as an advocate for reducing medication dependency, have you faced any professional resistance or skepticism from your peers in the pharmaceutical industry? And if so, how do you navigate these conversations and help others embrace a more holistic perspective in patient care?
That is a great question. And fortunately, actually surprisingly, I haven't received any pushback, any skepticism. I haven't received anything but support and intrigue from my pharmacy colleagues. They've been extremely supportive when I started this 4 years ago, learning how we can use nutrition, how we can focus on lifestyle to get our patients off of medications. And the fact is, it's not, I think it's because it's not so unbelievable. In pharmacy college, we are taught before we're taught about the medications, we're taught that the patient should be encouraged to focus on nutrition and lifestyle. So exercise, avoiding smoking, all that healthy stuff. And then at least try that for 3 months. And then if doing that doesn't improve their condition, then start medications. So
Mhm.
I believe that's probably why they're not so surprised that I'm doing this because we are taught that, but just not in detail. We're just a surface of it.
Right.
But my goal to actually make that the focus and dive deeper with patients when it comes to nutrition and their lifestyle, exactly what to do, how to do it. Um, with that, I've been able to share some information with those colleagues that I work with.
Mhm.
And I've also found a community of other pharmacists who are doing the same thing. So that's provided extra support as well.
So the doctors are, when you say colleagues, are are you talking about doctors? Are they working with you?
There are some outs in my business, there are doctors that I'm working with to help their patients focus on nutrition and lifestyle changes.
Right,
But
because
I still work at a hospital, and a hospital is completely different. My role there is to make sure the medications are safe and that they're appropriate for the patient's condition at that time. But outside the hospital, where I can work with people um, in their day-to-day life, I am working with those doctors to help them focus on nutrition and lifestyle.
that's awesome because what we hear so often is that doctors don't get any, if little to any nutrition training in college and medical school. So it's
Right.
good to hear that you at least are getting it in pharmacy school and that you're willing to help patients. So how does that look anyway? Like, do you approach a patient who brings in a prescription to say, you know, do you, how does it work? Do you volunteer to ask the patient if they need support, nutritional support, or do they come to you and say, "Hey, can you help me?" How does it look?
The way it works now, because I have a business independent of the work I do at the hospital, in
Okay.
my business, they are finding me.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm doing public speaking engagements, I'm doing workshops in the community, so they will come to me. Now, I must say, in about 8 years ago, I did have a position in the hospital where my role was to educate the patients. They're in the hospital, they're about to be discharged to go home. I would go to their room and tell them about, you have heart failure. These are the medications we that you're starting on. These are the changes in your medications. And then I will get an opportunity to counsel them on nutrition.
Mhm.
Limit your salt intake to this, eat these type of foods, make sure you work out this many days a week. But that was the extent of it. That was it. It was just giving these instructions. But now with my business, I'm able to work with them hand in hand, side by side, weekly to actually implement these changes and make it part of their lifestyle versus just a list of things to do.
And
Very
Dr.
good.
Lawful, I think what you're referencing is your life balance. Is that correct? So, yeah, can you talk to us a little bit more about that and talk to us about that unique strategy?
Of course, Life Balance is the business name. It's
Mhm.
spelled LYFE because it's an acronym for Love Yourself First Every Day.
Mhm.
Oh, I like that.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
within underneath the Life Balance umbrella is my health coaching program called Inner Glow, INHER Glow, a play on the word inner. And
Mhm.
I coined that, I trademarked that name because the clients I have been working with have all been women. And as they get healthy and start focusing on themselves, prioritizing themselves, eating right, they actually start glowing on the outside. And I always tell them, you know what? That's because your inside is glowing. You've gotten healthier, and that glow is now shining through to you. So, Inner Glow is our health coaching program. And what I do that's unique and different from other health coaching programs, other than that, I'm a pharmacist and I'm able to look at their medications and work with their doctors is that I use what we call nutrigenomic testing, which is the science of how food affects your genes, your DNA. So from that test, we're able to get really personalized nutrition plans, lifestyle plans, exercise plans, supplement plans for my clients based on what their genetics are telling them they need.
Hmm.
So I work with
Okay.
them for now I used to do 90 days. Now I do 4 months. I work with them for 4 months to implement those changes in their life because we don't want it to just be, just something they do and then they're over, it's done. I work with them so it can be a lifestyle, a habit that is just the norm for them.
Hmm. Okay.
So, aiming for a healthier lifestyle can be overwhelming, especially when bombarded with conflicting information. Like eggs are good for you, eggs are bad for you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Hmm.
What would be your top three tips for pharmacists or other business professionals to overcome that initial paralysis and take their first actionable steps toward a healthier, more balanced life?
Yeah, the first step they should take, that's a great question. You're right. There's so much information out there. You can do a search on Google and get tons of different answers just for the
Yeah.
same question.
Hmm.
So it's no surprise that people, when they come to me, they are confused.
And
Hmm.
overwhelmed, I'm sure.
And overwhelmed. Yes, exactly. They don't know what to do. And some of them have tried things and it hasn't worked for them. Right. Um,
Yeah.
so what I tell someone is, yeah, it's good to try something. Something is better than nothing. But when you've tried something and nothing is working, from my experience, I know it comes down to genetics. We're all different. We're all different. That's why one person might be able to eat eggs and the other is not able to. Whether it comes down to genetics. Someone might be able to run a long distance race and not be winded, while someone else, they can't run half a mile,
Hmm.
without
Right.
being
That's
winded. That
right.
comes down
Yeah.
to genetics.
Hmm.
Um, I believe that health should be personalized, whether it's nutrition, whether it's a type of medication that you have. That's something else I do as well, called pharmacogenomics, where you can identify the type of medications that would actually work for you and limit the risk of side effects. It should all be personalized. And now we have the tools, we have the science to do it. So why not use it? Why waste time? Why go through trial and error when we can get the answers right away?
Hmm. Okay.
I mean, I love that. I've until preparing for this interview, I have not heard that word. Pharma.
Pharmacogen
Yes.
Pharmacogenomics. Yeah. So there are
Yeah.
quite a bit of pharmacists that specialize in it. And doctors now are becoming more aware of it. It's mostly used when it comes to medications for mental health, psychiatric disorders, as well as cancer medications.
Is that right?
There are cancer medications now that before the patient receives it, they have to have a genetic test done, and that will help
Wow.
determine which one would be best for them.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very innovative. So, Dr. Lawful, you referenced earlier your 90-day health coaching program. Can
Mhm.
you share a success story from that, or something that's occurred as a result of your program and folks getting involved with it?
Of course. I'll share our experience. I just met with one of my clients this morning. And I don't usually do private, but for this particular client, I said, you know what? It'll just be one-on-one, me and you. We'll make it private. So I've been working with her for about 2 months now. We met this morning, and she said, Dr. Tamar, I went into my closet and clothes that I haven't been able to wear in a couple years, they fit. Some of them are actually too big. And
Wow.
I've only been working with her for 2 months. She's
Wow.
lost, I believe, about 11 pounds right now.
Mhm.
And this is her goal was not weight loss, by the way. Her goal is to improve her A1C so that when she goes to her doctor in February, that A1C says you're no longer pre-diabetic. So
Right.
we are hopeful that that's what the result will be. But by just making these changes in her nutrition and also her lifestyle, she says to me, Dr. Shamar, your program is not really like, she says, I see it more like a lifestyle program more so than a nutrition health coaching program because she says I've helped her be able to structure her life better and prioritize it. So the tips that I'm teaching her about nutrition, the tips I'm teaching about prioritizing herself, self-care, she's been able to take those and apply them to every aspect of her life, work, her family life. So she feels that she's being more well-rounded in her health overall, not just for nutrition, but in every aspect of her life. So success stories like those where you get the results that, you aim for what your goal is this, but in addition to your goal, you've also had these
Yeah.
other side effects.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are amazing. So that's a
Yeah.
very recent result with a client.
Well, and I tell you, that's amazing. And you're right. When you can coach folks to actually make a lifestyle
Mm,
change, in the way that they view nutrition and exercise and other elements of their lives, then you're really making a difference. So we applaud you for that. Yeah.
thank you.
Hmm.
So why do you think, I mean, you're obviously having some successes, right? And I'm pretty sure you're sharing them. But why do you think some healthcare practitioners and patients don't think about this route or overlook this route? What would you tell someone who's skeptical at first, particularly those who struggle with their weight?
Well, I believe a lot of healthcare practitioners don't go this route because it's not taught. When
Mm,
they're in school, their education for whether you're a doctor or a pharmacist or nurse, you're not being taught nutrition. You know, you're being taught this is a disease and this is the medication for it.
Hmm.
That's it. This is a
mhm.
disease and this is the medication for it. And we, to the point where I would go far as saying that we are brainwashed to believe that medications are the only answer, the only solution to
Yeah.
health
Yeah.
conditions,
Yeah.
right? But we forget where the source of some of these medications are from, the plants,
Hmm.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And some of these medications are mimicking what's naturally in our bodies. For example, the latest medications being used for weight loss medications, for weight loss, Ozempic, Wegovy, tirzepatide, semaglutide, they're mimicking a hormone that occurs naturally in our body. So what if we, by eating a certain way, by reducing stress, we could actually help that natural hormone in our body work better
Hmm. Hmm.
without having to rely on outside medications. So the reason they're not going this route is because they're not taught to go this route.
Hmm.
Um, and for those who are skeptical about it, I would say try it yourself. Take the test.
Hmm.
Take the test, see what it says, and then 2 weeks of implementing a nutrition plan that comes from that test, you'll see the results.
So, Dr. Tamar, you referenced the emerging weight loss drugs. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that? What's your view on those?
So the latest weight loss medications, I believe that they're made for people who, well, originally they've been around. They've been around actually a long time, over 20
Yeah.
years, 20 years or
Uh,
so. They're being for mainly used for diabetes.
mhm.
So now they've got the latest indication for weight loss. They work for some people, not everyone. It all comes down to genetics again, I believe, but not everyone is going to get the same results or lose the same amount of weight. I believe that for those who have truly been struggling with obesity, with weight loss, it can definitely be an addition um, to help them to start losing that weight.
Mhm.
However, it's important that they are fully informed about what to expect from that medication. I actually collaborate with a doctor to prescribe those medications to patients who need it. And expectation wise, it may work, it may not work. That's the truth. And that comes down to genetics. Expectation wise, when you stop taking it, the weight is likely to come back. Okay. Because the reason you may have issues of weight has never truly been addressed in the
Mhm.
first place. Whether it's your emotional eating is a problem, the medication shuts that off. It shuts any kind of cravings off. It There've been reports that people no longer even crave to drink alcohol, no longer crave to gamble, all that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it works in a receptor in the brain that handles all that as well. So when you stop taking it, people report their cravings, they feel like their cravings are stronger than they ever were before they were on the
Wow.
medication. So that's something, that's an expectation. The cravings may come back stronger than before. So you're going to eat more if you haven't learned the habits to cope with cravings, to cope with
Mhm.
emotional eating, right? Um, so I believe it's an effective medication, but you know, they might have to be on it lifelong if depending on the individual,
Mhm.
if they want to keep that weight off.
And
Mhm.
as far as we know, being on it lifelong, there haven't been any. have there been real side effects that have been identified, or is it okay to be on it
From the
for
studies
long
that
term?
they, thank you. From the studies that they've had, because it's been around for so long, the common side effects are all the gut side
Mm-hmm.
effects, the
Right.
constipation or the diarrhea.
Yeah.
Those are, or the nausea and vomiting. Those are the main side effects. Now, as far as thyroid cancer has been reported not in humans yet, but in laboratory mice, right? So, excuse me. So that's why there is a warning that if you have a history of the certain type of thyroid cancer, not that you should not be on the medication because based on the animal studies, there's a risk of it. There's a risk of potential risk of suicide with this medication that's been reported. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's not, to my understanding, it's not an official warning yet, but it's still under observation. They're keeping track if there are any suicides associated, suicide behavior associated with these medications. Yeah. But other than that, as far as I know to date, it's a relatively safe medication in comparison to some medications that are out there.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tamar, for coming on Evenings Off and sharing your knowledge with us. And particularly, we thank you for thinking outside the box in terms of your interactions in your practice and in your coaching program, because Teresa and I both agree that that's very much needed, particularly from medical personnel. So we applaud you in what you're doing, and we're thankful that you care enough to come on our show and share this information.
Yes, and first off, I want to thank you for allowing me your platform to come on your platform to share this information. Parting words, I want to encourage everyone listening to do life, to live life, which is love yourself first every day without the guilt. Put yourself first. You are worth it. You're worth every minute, every moment of putting yourself first. If you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on Facebook at Dr. Tamar Lawful, as well as Instagram and TikTok if it's still going to be around at Dr. Tamar Lawful. And visit me at www.thelifebalance.com. That's www.thelyfebalance.com. And on Facebook, you can join my Facebook group, Blessed and Thriving, because we are blessed. We are blessed. We are blessed. But we need to
Yeah.
be thriving because this survival thing is just not it. We need to start we need to
So
start
true.
thriving.
That's right.
Amen. I
Yeah.
agree with that. So thank you so much again for coming on Earrings Off. We wish you all the very best.
Thank you. You too.
Take
Bye.
good care.